Welcome to week 5 of the Part 107 Prep series. This is lesson 9 and 10. We've covered the rules, airspace, sectional charts, and weather. Now we're moving into something a little less black and white: loading and performance and aeronautical decision-making. This is the week where we just stop memorizing numbers and start thinking like an actual pilot making real judgment calls. A lot of new drone pilots assume the hardest part of flying is mastering the controls. But here's the truth. Many flights go wrong before takeoff ever happens because the pilot didn't think through the performance. So what do we mean by performance? It's how well the aircraft can actually do what you need it to do. Take off safely, climb efficiently, hold position, respond to your inputs, complete the mission, and land with enough battery in reserve. And here's the key thing to remember as we go through this lesson. The Part 107 exam tests the factors that reduce performance and increase risk, not just the mechanics of the aircraft itself. This week is about connecting those dots. Let's start with weight, payload, and battery demand, because they're all connected. More weight on the aircraft means more power required, faster battery drain, and slower climb performance. That's a direct chain reaction. And weight isn't just about cargo. A change load includes accessories, mounted lights, or a different camera, all of which alter the aircraft's normal operating load. Here's the part students often miss. Even if the aircraft is technically capable of lifting that extra weight, you still have less margin. You have to factor in endurance, temperature, wind, and the overall mission profile. Remember this equation. More weight equals more power equals less margin. The fact that your drone can lift something doesn't necessarily mean flying with it is a good idea. Let's talk about battery management, because this is genuinely a safety issue, not just a convenience number on your controller screen. Battery planning is mission planning. You need enough battery to do 4 things: complete the full mission, handle unexpected winds along the way, fly home safely, and land with a safe reserve still in the tank. And here's something easy to overlook. Wind, extra load, and heat can all drain your battery faster than you expect, even on a mission you've flown a dozen times before. So here's a question I want you to ask before every flight, and it's slightly different from the obvious one. Don't ask, "Can I get there?" Ask, "Can I complete the mission and return with a safe reserve?" The second question is the one that actually matters. We touched on density altitude back in week 4, but let's reinforce it here in the context of mission performance. Higher temperatures than the air, which reduces both propeller efficiency and lift generation. Your drone is working harder for less results. Higher elevation means less dense air to begin with, which translates into reduced climb performance and a slower response to your control inputs. And human conditions can also contribute to thinner effective air density, compounding the problem further. Put those 3 together: hot, high, and humid. And now you have a drone that simply has less to work with than it would on a cool, dry day at low elevation. Here's one of the most important ideas in this entire lesson. Accidents rarely happen because of one dramatic mistake. They happen when multiple performance risks combine and stack on top of each other. Think about it this way. A heavy load increases strain on the aircraft. Hot weather reduces performance and efficiency. Low battery means less reserve for handling the unexpected. And unexpected winds create sudden control demands you weren't planning for. Now picture this scenario. A pilot launches at 75% battery on a warm afternoon, carrying extra equipment. Halfway through the flight, the wind picks up. Notice something important here. No single factor caused this failure. The pilot simply ignored how performance factors combine and compound on top of each other. That's the mindset shift this lesson is trying to build. Let's turn this into a practical checklist you can run before every flight. 1. Load. Is the aircraft carrying anything that changes its normal performance? 2. Battery. Is the battery level high enough for the full mission, plus a reserve? 3. Weather. Are conditions going to increase the power demand on the aircraft? 4. Heat and elevation. Is the temperature or elevation likely to reduce performance today? And 5. Return plan. Do I have a safe abort and return plan if something goes wrong? Here's the rule. If you cannot answer all 5 of these questions confidently, stop and reassess before you ever take off. Welcome to Lesson 10, Aeronautical Decision-Making, or ADM. Here's a sobering truth. Most drone accidents don't happen because the pilot didn't know the rule. They happen because the pilot made a bad decision. They rushed. They felt client pressure. They ignored a weather change, or they launched even when something felt off. ADM gives us a structured way to think through that. 4 steps. Identify the hazards around you. Assess and evaluate the actual risk they pose. Decide on the safest available action. And adjust as conditions change throughout the flight. This loop, identify, assess, decide, adjust, doesn't stop once you've launched. It runs continuously for the entire operation. Let's look at hazards that experienced pilots still sometimes overlook. Changing weather. Conditions can shift rapidly mid-mission, and wind, visibility, and temperature can all affect safety in ways that you didn't plan for at launch. People and obstacles. Nearby people, traffic, wires, and structures are frequently underestimated, especially ones you're focused on getting a shot. Battery and fatigue. Low battery status and pilot fatigue are internal risk, and they're easy to rationalize away in the moment. And rushing and pressure. The urge to just get the shot is honestly one of the most dangerous mindsets in remote piloting. Here's the line I want you to remember from this slide. Sometimes the biggest risk in the entire operation isn't the environment, it's the pilot's own mindset. Let's go deeper into something called human factors, the personal conditions that affect a pilot's decision-making and performance. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A pilot can have a perfectly legal aircraft, completely clear airspace, and great weather, and still make an unsafe choice because of something going on internally. The factors to watch for in yourself are fatigue and illness, stress and distraction, overconfidence, rushing, and poor situational awareness. Why does situational awareness matter so much here? Because aviation demands that pilots honestly evaluate their own conditions before, during every single flight. And here's the key point. Ignoring internal risk factors like fatigue or overconfidence is just as dangerous as ignoring an external one like high winds. The pilot is part of the safety system, not separate from it. This brings us to the go or no-go decision itself. A professional pilot is willing to delay, modify, or cancel a mission if the risk is too high. And I want to be really clear about something. That is not a weakness. That is discipline. Here's how the 2 outcomes break down. A go means conditions are acceptable, risks are manageable, and the missions can be completed safely as planned. A no-go means one or more risk factors exceed acceptable limits, and in that case, you delay, modify, or cancel. No client pressure, no deadline, no we already came all the way justifies an unsafe flight. Let's apply this to a realistic scenario. You arrive to film for a client. The winds are stronger than expected. There are more people present than you planned for. And your battery inventory is lower than expected. Now you've got 2 paths. The wrong way, force to flight. The client is waiting, so you launch anyway. But notice what's actually happening. Multiple risk factors are now stacked on top of each other. And this is exactly how accidents happen. The right way. Reassess first, delay, change location, shorten the mission, or cancel if you need it. Pressure is not a safety plan. Repeat that to yourself if you ever feel that pull to launch anyway. And remember, the FAA wants pilots who can think critically under pressure, not just pilots who can memorize regulations on a test. Here's a practical tool to take with you. Before every flight, run through 4 categories: aircraft, environment, pilot, and mission. Ask honest questions in each one. Is the aircraft in good condition and properly loaded? Is the environment, weather, airspace, obstacles, acceptable? Is the pilot, meaning you, rested, focused, and free of pressure clouding your judgment? And is the mission itself realistic given everything you've just assessed? Here's the rule to remember. A single weak category is enough reason to pause and reassess the entire flight. You don't need every category to fail. One is enough. Let's test what you learned with 5 review questions. 1. Why does additional weight reduce drone performance? 2. Why is battery management a safety issue, not just a convenience issue? 3. What does hot, thin air do to climb performance and propeller efficiency? 4. What does ADM stand for? And can you name 3 human factors that can affect safety? And 5. Why is client pressure considered a risk factor in the go, no-go decision? Take a moment to work through each of these in your head. If you can answer all 5 confidently, you've got a strong grasp on this week's material. Let's wrap up week 5. In lesson 9, we've covered how weight, battery, and density altitude all stack together to reduce performance. And the lesson there is simple. Plan before you launch. In lesson 10, we covered ADM and human factors, the skills that separate a casual hobbyist from a responsible remote pilot. Coming up in week 6, we're moving into the stronger review, timed practice, and exam-style thinking, pulling everything we've covered so far into one cohesive picture as we get closer to test day.